Hello and welcome to the Foxcatcher Racing Review Show. My name is Julian Valence, joined immediately from the Sydney desk is Nick Ashman. Because look, to be honest, Nico, the Carnivale is now in your hometown. So let's lead off with the strength. How are you?
Oh, well, I'm so surprised to get the call up here. Up the batting order I go. Get away, Hutchi. Get back down there with those filthy tail enders. Things really heading up, though, here in Sydney, both temperature-wise and racing-wise. And let me just remind you, it's the Carnival when it's up here, but because it's down in your neck of woods, we still call it the circus down there.
Oh, very good. Okay, so it starts with that. So just when you're talking about that, the Carnival's on its way, so I'm assuming so's the rain. So, all right, let's get into the track intel.
Don't start me on the weather.
How did this track play at Rosehill on Saturday, mate? We got any learnings? Because we are going to be back there next week for the big slipper day with 5 Group 1. So this could be really important to see if there was some things that we might be able to glean out of it. So what was the go?
All the rain during last week, which we spoke about, just sort of created that off-fence, off-rail advantage in the home straight. Now, we touched on that pretty comfortably in the preview show on the hunt on Thursday. We said lanes 4 and beyond would provide the bulk of your winners. Well, every winner was in lanes 7 to 14 on Saturday. 2 leaders did hold on and win, so it wasn't impossible to lead. But those 2 leaders were Eagle's Nest and Skyhook, who both led in sprint races, in slowly run sprint races. And we spoke about that on the previous show as well, how difficult it is to run down horses in those positions. So I thought the track played pretty true to Rosehill rail true, maybe a little bit more off-rail than you'd normally see, but not anything out of this. Well, I thought the track was good.
All right, so that's the track analysis for Rosehill. Let's get to the Hen House, mate. So there was some big talking horses. There was obviously the Coolmore Classic, the Group 1 race, and that's your lead-off in terms of the Hen House. It is race 8. The winner, the filly, Lady Shenandoah, she just keeps doing it.
Yeah, she was really good, Jules. She's run pretty much to the same mark as she did in the surround, maybe a fraction better. 127.08 for the 1,500 metres there. To give you an idea, that's almost a full second inside standard time. That's good going. She carried 54.5 kilos. Don't forget, she's a 3-year-old filly. Last 400, 200 for the race was 22.48, 11.32. Her last 400, 200 was pretty slick as well. So it was obviously faster than that. She was great. I just thought like it set up well for her with the rail being off. And once we got that tick, then you sort of knew that it was going to play into J-Mac's hands. He rode her a treat. He was positive out of barriers. I also think what helped her was maybe having Gringzinger Bell come out. Yeah. It just meant that she wasn't such a sitting duck for something to swoop late. She hit the front. She was able to stave off her challenges, which was, of course, Firestorm, the stablemate. And we'll touch on her a bit later in the show. She was fantastic. Lady of Camelot, what a performance from her. Wide no cover throughout, was beaten less than a length. She is now a robust filly around this distance range. I'll be interested to see what they do with her.
Yeah, I'm actually going to ask, and I'm interested to see what your thoughts here, just with Lady Shenandoah. She's won, obviously, the Surround and now the Coolmore Classic. So you can say, tick, tick, we've won those 2 Group 1s against the Olders and obviously against their own age. So that's positive there. Where do they go now with the prep? Or do you almost say, hey, we've done enough? Like, do you have any thoughts there of what they do there? We're going to touch on Firestorm maybe a little bit later. And even a horse like Lady of Camelot, where do they go with her? Because does it become a bit tricky from a placement point of view for these horses?
It does. Look, starting with the winner, Lady Shenandoah, I think we got a little insight into what Chris Waller thinks of this filly in the spring. He only gave her the 2 starts. So my guess is that she maybe just trains off a little bit, loses a bit of condition in her preparation. So she's not an overly big filly. So I would think that he probably puts her in the paddock. I mean, there is a temptation. Do you run her in a Vinery Stud Stakes? Now, I know it doesn't add value to her pedigree, but if they're thinking of going forward to the spring, do you want to know, is this potentially a 2,000-metre horse with, of course, that Moonee Valley race down there in the spring? Or do you say, hang on, we don't want to take on VS16, let's just keep it to the mile? My gut tells me that she'll go straight out for a spell. Yep. If she was to go to the races again, common sense would say the Queen of the Turf. But she has to step up probably to a new level there, taking on better horses than what she has here. And then the other one, the curly one, is the Vinery Stud Stakes. Just hang on a second. Do we want to see if she can beat a horse like Treasure of the Moment over 2,000 metres? And that gives them a bit of an insight as to what to do in the spring. Not sure. Just on Lady of Camelot, I think the best option for her is to now freshen up and to go to Queensland.
Yeah, okay.
And a similar story for the runner-up as well, Firestorm, but we'll touch on that a bit later on. But Lady of Camelot's had a hard prep. So if she goes to Randwick, where it's a lot more conducive to swoopers typically, and runs in that Queen of the Turf, she's going to be eyeing off with some pretty handy fillies and mares in that race. Now, granted, Lady Shenandoah is up there with the best in the country, but she's had a couple of gutbusters now, Lady of Camelot. You've got to wonder how many more times they can go to the well this prep. Maybe a freshen off. Take aim at the Tats Tiara. That might be a nice little goal for her over the winter.
Yeah, Tats Tiara looks a good one for her, that's for sure. If they didn't decide to go to the Queen of the Turf with Lady of Camelot, would they ever have a throw at the stumps at a Doncaster? Or would you say no, they wouldn't?
Well, I guess they could do, couldn't they? But like she's only just scraped home here, Jules. Like her last two starts, she hasn't won by big margins. The times have been good. So as you know, from a ratings perspective, there's two key things you look for, times and margins. So we love it when a horse runs fast time and wins by 2 or 3 lengths, soft on the line. That's the real big tick that you know they've got that class covered. Yep. She's winning in fast time, but she's only beating Firestorm and Lady of Camelot by small margins. And I guess the question you'd ask yourself is, how would Lady of Camelot and Firestorm go in a Doncaster mile? I think most punters would say, I reckon they're just a rung below where you need to be at that level.
Okay, so there's good analysis there of race 8 and where some of these horses might go and where we might see them again, if at all, this prep. The other race that goes into the Hen House for you, Nico, is race 7. It was won by Eagle Nest.
Yeah, look, I was reluctant about putting this one in, but she just gets in there, Eagle Nest, or should I say, she gets in there, 5-year-old mare. She went to the front and led on a soft tempo, but gee, the late splits are really good on this occasion, Jules, and I think there's more wins in store for her this preparation. Stable, sort of hitting their straps at present. Time to Boogie. Look, I know she only had to give that horse 1.5 kilos, and it's no world beater, but the overall time here was still the best part of 2 lengths inside the standard, what is it, about 0.3 of a second inside standard time, as you would say. Yep. And I think there's a horse to follow out of the race, which we'll touch on a bit later on. But I think she's gone to the front. She's got the right conditions on the day, but this was still a decent race, and I think there's horses in this race going pretty good. I'll give you one to follow going forward, and that's Coal Crusher. We'll talk about another horse to follow out of this race, but Coal Crusher is a bit of a hidden gem for the reasons that he's not a sit and sprint horse. He's a horse that likes to go well above average through the first section of the race and run his rivals into the ground. He didn't get the chance to do that on Saturday. I think he'll be a big improver wherever he goes next.
Okay, beautiful. So there's one for the punters. It might be a hidden gem, as Nico did mention. That's the Hen House this week for Rosehill. Okay, just looking at the doghouse, so just something that sort of came across your eye here, Nico, and it's not necessarily an overall race, but it's just possibly some tactical stuff to do with the race, and we identify race 6 here at Rosehill.
Yeah, I've put the comment here that you'll see. I think I wrote rival jockeys in race 6, won by Lazura. Let this be a lesson, punters. So they've gone through the first 2,000 metres about 20 lengths below standard. That is absolutely crawling. So Lazura won this race, sat on speed, and ran the best last 200 metres of the entire day. So it was mathematically impossible for those horses behind her to win this race on Saturday. Wonder Boy was coming out of a fast-run 1,400-metre race and goes to a slowly-run 1,500-metre race. He didn't have that tactical speed to win. Declicci Boulevard's a really interesting one because I think she's suited by a slow tempo. She was probably just a little bit too far back, but be careful about thinking she needs a fast tempo to show her best. Wonder Boy does, but I think she got the right race shape, just position in run and the way that the Rosehill track is shaped probably didn't quite suit her. She might be able to win a slowly run race at Randwick where she's a little bit closer. That's probably going to be her go, but I'm reluctant about following her to a vinery, aside from the fact that she's got to take on Treasure of the Moment. But I also just think that there's no real gauge here to know that she can run any further than 1,500 metres. She's just got great acceleration. So I'm bidding the rides behind Lazura, and I guess you could say the front runner Flying From Above, who didn't have much of a chance. I think the other jockeys in that race really handed it to Lazura. And Chris Waller was on Channel 7 pre-race, and Emma Friedman asked him, who's the pick here for you is Declicci Boulevard. And he said, well, look, Lazura's got the best turn of foot. And if she goes forward in what looks to be a slow to run race, they mightn't be able to catch her. And that's exactly how the race panned out. So the fact that he was able to see that and the rival jockeys didn't, that's a little bit of a concern, I reckon.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make also about Declicci Boulevard, because I fell into her as well in the spring with her. She ran some fantastic 1,400-metre races, and I was like, okay, 1,600 metres? I don't think she gets 1,600 down a well, and as you said, 1,500 is a bit of a concern. So you're right. I think 1,200 to 14 for her, like no issue with the fast run 1,200, but then that 1,400 metres sees her out to Declicci Boulevard. So I think that's one you can look at going forward when you see that horse at the races next. That's the Doghouse this week. All right, hits and misses, points bet market, what was backed on the day throughout this card at Rosehill, Nico. Race 1, So Good, So Cool, $12 into $6 at hits. Do we follow this horse, or was this just right day, right time, right everything for it?
I think the market, to be fair, Jules, probably got the price wrong. I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but the ratings that this horse presented with coming into the race was certainly better than a $12 pop. Got to the best part of the track. The runner-up, Huon, was in lane 6. No winner all day, won from inside lane 7. Now, granted, race 1 probably has the best part of the track, but I just thought maybe the runner-up was a touch closer to the fence than ideal. This horse got right out in, I think, lane 10 or 11. So I think that's where it had its right day, had the right ratings, and got to the right part of the track.
Race 2, perfect play, $8.50 into $4.20, misses, runs unplaced. Anything to see here that we want to follow up with?
Well, they just went mad in front. They went 10 lengths above standard through the first section of the race. This horse made its run in lane 5, so too close to the fence, too fast on pace. The only 2 leaders to win all day led on slow tempos. You just couldn't do that. That's a forgive performance. Don't know if I want to back it next start. Could be entitled to go flat, but certainly one that you've definitely got to, certainly a performance that you've definitely got to forgive.
Yep. Race 4, Strata Verena, $3.20 into $2.85, misses, unplaced.
Look, first go 1,200 metres, leads at an even tempo, gets out to lane 6. So when they lead or set on speed and come out to lane 6, a 1,200-metre race probably seems a little bit more like a sort of 1,250, 1,300-metre race. So maybe this horse, we've still got to tick that 1,200-metre box, maybe had to do a little bit more work than ideal here. I'd be a little forgiving of performance, but also I'd be more inclined to back this horse if it goes back to 1,100 metres next time round.
Okay, good intel there.
Maybe the kindergarten stakes.
Yep. Okay, very good. That's a good one for the punters. They can circle in their book. Race 5, Lindemann, $2.20 into $1.75. Misses, runs third. The market wanted to be with it because it was going to be the leader. What do you make of this horse now? Because it was really brought the right form lines in. Crossroads?
Well, again, look, probably needed a softer tempo in front. I mean, I thought we spoke about this on the previous show on Thursday. Arapahoe's figures weren't that far off, and the form lines it brought were pretty similar to Lindemann. So I was surprised that they actually truckloaded Lindemann. I think they just sort of get a soft lead. Nash will get it on his bike from the 700 and make him chase, and it'll just be mathematically too hard. But he led. He was probably a touch closer to the fence. I just don't think it was really the right conditions for him on Saturday. I think he can still win another race this preparation. It wasn't an overly taxing run. But I just think with the rail being off and the only 2 leaders that held on and won were on soft tempos, and he's at least gone sort of even through the middle stages, I think, Arapahoe was able to reel him in. He's got a good turn of foot, Arapahoe. And then Vauban, which we'll talk about later in the show, It was clearly on song on Saturday.
Race 6, Declicci Boulevard, we've spoken about her, $3.90 into $2.35. The market just wanted to be with her. The misses, runs third, but we've spoken about her and where she's sort of at.
Yeah, Lazura best last 200 metres of the day, and Declicci Boulevard gave Lazura a start. So just couldn't have won from where she was.
Wonder Boy in the same race, mate. I know you were with it, $9 into $4.80. It's a miss, but if you played in that each way price, sort of early doors, you probably have got something out of it. Run second, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, he was great. He just lacked that ping. He didn't have the zing in his legs that Lazura did. She was coming off a softer tempo race and was able to, well, sort of not a softer tempo race, but she was able to quicken better, whereas he was looking for that faster tempo. I wouldn't drop off him. I think, maybe the Carbine Club at Randwick might suit him. Randwick Mile, I think he's ready for that now. And the good thing is he's had the hard run last start. He's had the soft little entree this time round. He's going to be ready to peak next time round over a fast run mile at a big track. So Randwick, Carbine Club's his go.
Yeah, third up, beautiful platform, really. So you've identified one there, I think. Race 7, Pizzanello, $3 into $2.40. Miss. Runs third. There might be some hidden merit in this.
Well, come on. Didn't we talk about this on the previous show? If you didn't watch it, come on. Just see this. I'm going to pat myself on the back there. I actually laid this horse. I don't do a lot of laying, but I laid him. He got Rosehill. It's as simple as that. When you in the sprint races at Rosehill, when you draw wide and you don't have gate speed, Eagle's Nest, who we spoke about, has the gate speed to come across the face of the field. This horse doesn't. It had to go back. So it was always going to be mathematically a little bit tough. He's run a huge race to almost get there, but he just got Rosehill. Watch for him to improve out of sight. He'll be winning a 1,200-metre race at Randwick, maybe like the Hallmark or race like that during the 2 days at Randwick. That's going to be his go. Put it in the black book. He'll be atoning next time round.
Beautiful. Race 9, Ducasa, $5 into $3.20. Misses, runs unplaced.
Yeah, sort of it's the Wonder Boy theory here. So barrier 1 probably didn't help him from a start because he was just a bit closer to the fence than ideal, but it's the Wonder Boy theory. He came out of a fast run 1,400-metre race, goes to a slowly run 1,500-metre race. So it just the race shape worked against what he needed at his second run back from a spell.
Okay, so he could possibly he could really sort of springboard off this one next start, do you think?
I think he can do, yeah, because he's had that fast run thing to get in condition for a mile third up. Does he even get into a Doncaster? Maybe he has to look for something slightly, as you'd say, a little off Broadway in terms of the Group 1s. But he's come back okay. I wouldn't drop off him completely.
And in the last race, I'm an Aussie boy from a country town, so it's Les Vampires.
That's right,
$4.20 into $3.10. Big hit, though.
They say Darren Flindell is an unreal race caller. Les Vampire, all these people talking about, like, come on, just grab a meat pie. It's Les Vampires, mate. He's progressive. It was a smart ride from Hieronymus, fairly typical of the Waterhouse stable. Obviously, Robbie's one of the best judges that we've seen in terms of assessing form, and Hieronymus knew where to be on the track. At the 600-metre mark, he was in lane 4, so he didn't do too much work coming around that bend. By the time they got to the 400, he was in lane 9. So a lot of the leaders or on-pace runners for the day, they were a bit closer than that and just made their life a bit tougher. He's a hard horse, hard fit. He was able to cover a bit more ground. This was a smart ride, and he's a horse that's still progressive.
Beautiful. So that's the hits and misses for the points bet market. Some really outstanding intel from Nico there that we can look at those horses, yes, why they were backed, and do we want to be with them again next start or we drop off? Great intel there in that little seg. So that's the hits and misses this week, Rosehill. All right, let's get to In the Fox's Den. What are those black book horses? I know we spoke about a couple of them sort of quickly as we went through, Nico, but you've got 3 of them. Let's roll through them, mate. Yeah,
Wonder Boy, the first one. I was really taken by his performance on Saturday. I know he couldn't run down Lazura, but as we said, best last 200 metres of the day for that leader, that winner, Lazura. He needed a faster tempo. He's prime and ready to go for a Randwick mile next time round. So stick with him. He's come to Sydney. He's travelled well. He's gone well the Sydney way of going. He'll prefer Randwick. The second of them is Pizzanello. We touched on it as well with the hits and misses. This galloper just got Rosehill, got back in a slowly run 1,100-metre race at Rosehill. It's almost mathematically impossible each time that happens. He'll be, I think, a Hallmark Stakes or a race like that, 1,200 metres at Randwick with the rail just a little bit off. He'll be atoning there for sure. And the last one that we didn't speak about in the hits and misses is Firestorm. She was fantastic. I mean, she's charged home and almost beaten Lady Shenandoah. She was a long way back, gave him a start. Just what does Chris do now with her? If you'd ask me, I reckon they should freshen up and go towards a Stradbroke. Yeah. I think it's a lovely race for her. She gets in light of the weights. No doubt they might have a crack at the Queen of the Turf just to see if she can get that another Group 1 placing. But I think the Stradbroke, she'll get in with a good weight, and then she gets a second bite of the cherry with a Tats Tiara. So they're the 3 for mine that I'd be following in the coming weeks. Beautiful. We can follow them with confidence or In the Fox's Den. All right, let's get to Through the Line, the new segment, Nico, just rapid fire. So I will kick off because there was a bit of conjecture about this throughout the day. Rosehill track, thoughts? I thought it was a good track on Saturday. I thought it played exactly how we expected it to. Our track report came through last Wednesday, Thursday, saying it was going to be off-rail. You need to be in lanes 4 and beyond. All winners were in lanes 7 to 14, so it played pretty true to how we expected to. As I said, It was maybe a little more inferior down on the inside than it normally has been, but we had a huge amount of rainfall here in Sydney during the week. I'm the first to bake them when they water the tracks, but I thought the track played exactly how you should play, given the rainfall we had and given the rail position on the day. So no issue from me there. I want to ask you about a horse that you're keen on. What's it called? She's Got Pizzazz. What did you make of the ride there on She's Got Pizzazz? Craig Williams, was he a bit cute on her, or do you think that was just beaten sort of by unforeseen circumstances?
Yeah, I think he could have been a little bit more aggressive, probably from the 800 to the 400, Nico. He sort of was going from 1,000 to 1,200 metres. We identified that was the right gate. There was just no early speed at all, and he just sort of lobbed there. And then Craig sort of allowed Winner's Edge, Michael D, to just sort of sit maybe 3/4 of him front. I would have liked him to own the race a little bit more. Now, whether he thought that She's Got Pizzazz wasn't 100% wound up because she was second up, but big Vobus gold race, I just felt like she would have been set for this. And what I just don't like is when you're 15 metres past the post and then you're back in front by a neck. Mm. When you've been headed sort of at the 200 or the 100 and then you're back in front past the post, I just felt like maybe if we'd burnt the candle a little bit between the 8 and the 400, there could have been a different result. So off the map, really well supported, but, disappointing in that regard. And I think maybe he was just a tiny bit cute, but I'm also probably talking through my pocket as we do. Vauban, mate, you got any words about Vauban? Because he's back. but I was talking about this a lot actually in the last 2.5 years, how inefficient this market I think has become in this space. Well, they got this one wrong.
So I'm on the previous show saying, in my eyes, he's the best horse in the race.
Correct.
I want to back him.
Correct.
But I think you should wait to see that he's reasonably firm in the market to make sure he's right there, that this isn't just a tune-up for, the Tancred or whatnot in a couple of weeks. So Saturday afternoon comes around, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I can tell you now, I hadn't backed him early. I was sitting waiting. I saw he was out to 550 on race morning. In my head, I thought, if he just gets back into 450, which I know is in line with his opening price, that's good enough for me to play. They get to the start to about a minute before the start. Sorry, about 10 minutes before the start, he's $6.50, $7. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to have a bet here. Then he gets to $9.
So just quickly with that, it seems like also, so he was drifting anyway, but then I think the reports were in the yard that he's melted and he's gone down his sort of normal Australian sort of situation. So then they've just completely binned him. And if the race was held up because a horse was possibly getting reshot, he might have started hundreds.
Yeah, but the thing is, he does get hot before races, but you make the point, and now he's got hot twice out here before and failed both times. So the market pushes him out. But it's this funny thing, Jules, and I can't explain the punter mind, but I wouldn't have backed him at $6.50 or $7 because I would have been like, nah, it's too soft. But I took a bit of the $9 just before they jumped, thinking this is just ridiculous. Then in the run, when Timmy Clark was one out, one back after they'd gone about 200 or 300 metres, he was $10 in the run. So I had another little lick there. Not a big go, just little snips. And then he got shuffled back to last, and I thought, okay, now I can see why the market binned him. And then he just zoomed home late and won. And so it just was one of those circumstances where I had no idea what I was doing. I knew I liked what was in front of me, but I had no idea what I was doing. And it somehow I came out on top. It was a bit like the first time I had sex, Am I allowed to say that? Am I going to get cancelled for saying?
No, mate. You've passed the cancelling point of view. That's fine. The key.
You get what I mean? I had no idea what I was doing.
The key there is we talk about it a lot because we play in the market space so much. But as I've said for this last 18 months to 2 years, is that this market is becoming decreasingly efficient every day. So at some stage, you do have to back your judgment as much as you're against the tide. And sometimes when you're against the tide, it doesn't go your way and you go, the market's right. But yeah, she's no longer the market she was 2.5 years ago, that's for sure.
There's different players in it 100%. Now, speaking of the market and drifters, down your way, Pride of Jenni was a big drifter. They didn't necessarily, she was pretty firm Zardozi, but that was one I really wanted to see what the market. There was 2 horses on Saturday that I couldn't wait to see the market flux. One was Vauban and the other was Pride of Jenni. Both drifted, both won. What do you got to say about Jenni?
Yeah, well, starting on the market, you could have priced her any sort of which way you wanted. I think there was a question that came through for us after the preview show was, is the 240, 250 Pride of Jenni unders? Because we haven't seen her for, because she just came off such a poor spring. And I was like, well, to be honest, if she's anywhere near the Pride of Jenni that she used to be, you'd be happy to take 240, 250 because she should be starting in the red. But I could never play in this race because I just had no idea what she was going to do. Now, the market wasn't as savage on her as probably what they were with Vauban, but she was still 240, 250 out to sort of that 360 plus price range. And they've allowed her to do what she does so well. She's come off the 3-month bleed. Froggy's got her to the front and she's absolutely controlled the race and ran a pretty good number, to be honest, too. I mean, her last 400, 200 is really soft, but Pride of Jenni's last 400 and 200 is always really soft because she breaks their hearts between the 1,000 and the 600, really, and that's where she does the damage. So she did it again. She's fantastic for racing, and that narrative will be continually built around that. I find her really difficult to work out what to do when she's in the race, whether to play, not to play, because she breaks so many other horses' hearts, and the race just becomes a different race shape. So from that perspective, I always find it difficult, but I love her just in those kinds of races. She's going to add some intrigue. I don't know where she goes to next, Nico, whether she goes to the Australia Cup. I think maybe do they go to the Queen of the Turf? Maybe do they go to the Queen Elizabeth? I've got no idea, but wherever she goes, she'll attract plenty of attention, and that's what we want for horse racing because she's great for it.
I think there's just with the Australian Cup, I think they want to check her out because it's only, 2 weeks away. Yeah. So she's a horse that has sometimes liked the races a bit space because she uses herself so much.
Yeah.
If she goes to the Australian Cup, here's an interesting one for you. Deny Knowledge has got a pretty free-running pattern herself.
Yep.
So I don't mind Deny Knowledge in futures for that race, but I'm desperate to know if Jenni's going there because if Jenni goes there, it really diminishes DK's chances. If she doesn't, then I think DK has a bit of a chance in futures markets.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. We got through it. That was through the line. We're done. We're dusted. Sydney really builds up now, mate, so it's your time to shine. But, as we said from the top, there's 5 Group 1s next week and then we sort of get bang into the championship. So you keep a weather watch on that too because, as we know, as soon as we get close to Randwick, then the heavens seem to open. But it's building up to be a great prep, though, a great carnival, really, because some cracking horses.
I've got something for you. Now, do you want to – would you like for your Foxcatcher viewers a runner-by-runner guide to the Golden Slipper this week?
Oh, yes, please. Let's do that. Yep.
You want that?
Yeah, do that.
I don't know. Are we signing the producers up here to a bit more work? Have you spoken
actually, I'm getting a knock on the door saying no chance. So
I reckon we do it, mate. We've got to do it for the big races each year.
Yeah, good. All right, I like that. Very good. I'll see you soon. I'll see you Thursday for the preview. For the slipper, everything.
Love you, brother.
See you, man.
I don't care what anyone says about you. I still think you're a good bloke. See you, mate.
Nico's just given me a bit of a flyby on the way out, but now we've got Hutchi here from racing.com. How are you, Hutch? How's the weekend?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Jules. Yeah, I'm pretty good. Footy's back. Racing's back. It was
Your
great.
team won.
Oh, they did.
Oh, no.
I'm the... What are you...
Your kids' team... Aren't your kids' teams the dogs? You hang around with most of the dogs players. I reckon you play in a couple of spaces.
I've got about 6 teams, but...
Your original team not only didn't win, they were putrid.
Oh, my gosh. We're going to move on from that. Let's talk about the racing. The racing was unbelievable there on Saturday. I really had a good day at the Caulfield. I thought it was a good promotion they put together.
Yep.
The crowd was good, and it was good to see Jenni back.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to Jenni a little bit later, but let's get to the track intel here, Hutch, of how it played. So out 6 metres the entire circuit. Good 4, was beautiful conditions, got the upgrade after race 4 to a good 3. Times indicated that. Fast tracks, I thought the shoot on speed and advantage, and I thought the circle on speed and advantage. There was an outlier probably with that country final with Electric Bell sort of coming off the speed. But I think Caulfield, dry track, upgrade. I think I know where I want to be.
Yeah, you definitely want to be there. I thought the track played pretty well, personally.
Yeah. It's typical Caulfield, though, isn't it?
It is. I mean, what do we have? 6 leaders won, which is a lot. But 3 of those races, they crawled.
Yes.
We'll touch on that later because there was some ridiculous pace in some races. But... no, I thought, Benadryl came from near last swept right around them and Electric Bell. So I thought if they went quick enough, you could win from back.
Yep. That was the track intel for Caulfield, big Vobas Day. Let's get to the Hen House, races that we think we can follow with a bit of confidence. I've started with race 3 here. The winner's Samangu. She just keeps winning, to be honest, Hutch. A quarter of a second inside standard time, but it's the last 400, 200 that stacks up. And over the short course, you can understand that. The 22.81, 11.8. Samangu comes home 11.5. She's a horse I think we can continue to follow with confidence. And I think there's a few others outside of it. If they can pick the right races, I think we can as well. It's the race I want to be with.
Yeah, it was a nice performance. It was a different sort of role for her sitting in behind. She looked a little bit new. It was a bit of a dash home, but I love the fact that she took a sit and accelerated like she did. She's put away now. They're putting her away.
Yeah, which is good. I like that. He's such a good camp, isn't he?
Yeah, back for the spring. He's elite trainer, isn't he?
Yeah, Graham Begg we are speaking of. So that was race 3. It goes in. Race 6, well, there's plenty of narratives about this, but the race actually has gone well as also here, Hutch, and the winner obviously is Pride of Jenni. 1.5 seconds inside standard time. Now, we'll look at the last 400 and 200. Now, it's going to be soft compared to the rest of the day because that's just what Pride of Jenni does. She wins her races from the 1,000 to the 600. There's obviously 12.5 her last 200. Great to have her back at the races. The market spat her out. Had no idea what she was going to do, but she looked the winner a long way out.
She did, and they all sort of settled in their positions. Like other races it's been with her, I think he rode her a treat, actually, Craig Newitt.
Got it right, didn't he, in terms of just every section will just seem to be about the right time.
Yeah, her efficiency was like 100.8 in terms of the ride, and Zardosi's was like 104 with over a second faster final 600, but you can't win when you're that far back. I thought it probably needed to be a bit more proactive on Zardosi, but I don't think it changes the result.
Yeah, you think probably Zardosi's okay, it's not a Group 1, let's not get busted up by what possibly could happen with Pride of Jenni. They're obviously still on track for an Australia Cup. I don't know if Pride of Jenni goes to Australia Cup. I don't know where she's going. I don't know if you've got any intel.
I did hear today that they're going to go to the Australian Cup.
Okay, so that makes the Australia Cup a very interesting race. But it also, we speak about markets, we speak about betting, we get that, but there's obviously the other card as well. But it's good to have a really good horse like her back doing what she does because she brings people in.
She brings people in, and she was hard. I didn't know how to sort of handle her on the weekend. I thought the whole race was difficult, from even a betting point of view, because you're like, well, where do I put her in terms of what figure she's going to bring to this race? So I just said it's too hard, I'm staying out. But and Zardosi was just short enough, and you just knew that with her, if she brought her best, or some, not her best, but somewhere near that she could get away with what she did.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point you raise, is because I find it really difficult when Pride of Jenni's in any kind of race to know whether she's still going to be able to do what she can do and how to price these others, because she busts up the others. Yeah. Now, some can absorb it and cope with it. A horse like Via Sistina can probably absorb that kind of pressure. Mr. Brightside even to a lesser extent. But there's other horses that just spit it out and can't absorb it at all, and they really struggle. So
most of them.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. So, look, she was a drifter on Saturday. You could easily have marked her in the red on her best ever stuff, but you just didn't know what she was ever going to do off what she did in the spring. Yeah. So,
what did market forces settle on then? About $4, was she?
Yeah, correct. Like she's $2.50, $2.60 out to $4. But as we spoke about in the Sydney show with Nic and Vauban, was $4 out to $9. Is that this market is just not as efficient as what it was 2.5 months ago, 2.5 years ago. So, you've got to be sometimes brave with your convictions, with your pricing. So, anyway, Pride of Jenni, she's in the Hen House. Great to have her back on track. Last one for the Hen House is Team Hayes with a horse called Tatsumaki. And I know you had a big win on this horse, but this is a pretty good performance. Now, I know it's over 1,000 days off the scene, but big crunch for it late, especially on the tote. So, one in particular obviously really liked Tatsumaki, but this was an outstanding performance, well inside standard time. Again, last 400, 200, pretty soft. Horse was coming out after at Heart of Glass or something like that, but this is a good effort.
Yeah, it was a terrific win. It got, out on its feet late, like you said, but the pace of the race was strong. A gap between runs, but I wasn't too concerned about that, just in terms of the jump outs leading in. That's not to say that Tatsumaki won't improve a lot. First to second run, second to third. I think it might be... it's a stakes class horse, I think, at that lower end at this point. Now that we've seen him once here, it's just more managing it now. Like I think off that run, it was a hard run.
I wouldn't be going a fortnight, would you?
No. Yeah. I think 3 or 4 weeks, something out, and they can sort of work out where they want to go. Yeah. But a nice horse, and good. It had premium 2-year-old form, which I'm also a little worried about generally going forward. But the numbers in the UK were excellent, and it's sort of been to Hong Kong, jumped out well or trialled well. So could be another one for the boys. And, of course, the same owner as Red Kirk Warrior.
Very good. I just have a feeling too, punters, that Hutchi's gone with this horse. He came in with the big spring in the step.
So I was like that on the weekend when it fell in.
We were conversing about what goes in the hen house and goes, you better have that's some marking. I said, mate, I've got it in there. I've got it in there. Don't worry. That's the hen house this week. All right, Doghouse, just a race that I'm a bit worried about what the market's going to do. I think the market's going to spit everything that comes out of this race. It is the first race, won by Banker's Choice. Well outside standard time. And the last 400, 200 as well, they, 12:35. So when you go so slow, you should be able to probably break 12. They couldn't. I'm a bit worried about going forward with this race. Any thoughts on it, mate?
Oh, so the staying.
If you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything.
There's nothing nice to say. There is absolutely nothing nice to say. But there's a real lack of depth at that sort of end, isn't there?
It does seem to be.
And then when you get the races run like this, it's a yawn fest.
Yeah, it was a little bit like that. So that's why it's in the house. Hits and misses. So points bet market, what was happening on the day? What do we want to do here going forward with some of these horses, Hutch? I'd be really interested in your thoughts. Race 2, Regal Vow, really well backed, $3.60 into $2.40. It misses, it runs third. I thought the inside gate going in was going to be a slight concern for this horse. Just didn't know where it would get. I don't think we drop off this horse, do we?
I certainly don't. Some of that was mine. I really liked Regal Vow, and I just felt a little ill after about 100 metres. I'm like, a lot further back than I envisaged, and it was decent enough speed, but it just sort of needed to be a bit more proactive, I thought. Mid-race, once again, I think Willow was waiting for Damien Lane in front of him probably to make that move, but sometimes you've got to do it yourself.
Yes.
And anyway, it was a good run.
Yep.
And this is a horse.
We'll talk about him maybe this horse a little bit later, I think, in the show with you, Hutch. Race 3, Miss Aria. This is the Samangu race. They wanted to be with Miss Aria, $3.40 into $2.50. Now, it runs unplaced, and I think to the eye, people were going, this is just disappointing. Market expectations just been really poor. I just don't think it's an 1,100-metre horse for me. I just want to see it at 1,400, third up. That's where I think you can actually make some cash. So I'm not giving up on her, even though to the eye I think she's been disappointing.
Disappointed on the day, and then when I watched it again, I thought, no, that was a fair enough run. I thought it was an even effort. They've sprinted home, and like you said, maybe just a bit further. Because actually, she wasn't beaten far.
No.
I thought, she's actually stuck on okay.
I think at the 200, I was like, oh, this is really poor. And then at the 50 to go, it's like, oh, no, you're starting to really just pick up again. So I think we get her to 1,400. There's something in that. Race 5, Athanatos, $5.50 into $3.50. Market wanted to be with it. Run second, come up along the inside. As I said before in the preview, when I actually did tip this horse, that I think it's a big track horse, but I thought this was its moment. Third up. I think the race has gone okay. Whether I want to be with it again, it's a little bit Goldilocks for me, Athanatos.
What's it, 1 from 11 now?
Yeah.
1 from 11. Yeah. That's sort of creeping into those areas.
Especially when you're taking those kinds of prices. Like it's a premium price you're paying. So that's got to be factored in sometime. So getting to that stage, agree. Race 6, Zardozi. Wanted to be with this one. They spat out Pride of Jenni, $2.45 into $2.05. Look, the way the race was run, the way probably where she was positioned, this horse was positioned in run, probably couldn't win, but they're on track for an Australian Cup, aren't they?
I think so, but I thought that was their race there on the weekend. I think they needed to be more aggressive, and you're going to take on Jenni now. Good luck.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that Jenni's now going to the Australian Cup, as you said. So
you had fitness on your side. That correct. Was the day. Yeah. And I understand it's not the grand final, but,
Yep, good point. Race 7, she's got Pizzazz. This just seems a thing of every horse I send it back that gets beat.
This Mrs. file, you feature quite a bit in it.
$5.50 into $3.60 misses. Look, back in front, 10 metres past the post. Just one of those things. I thought it was the perfect race for it.
Was he a little cute?
I think he was. I thought I would have liked him probably from the 8 to the 4 to be a little bit more aggressive from that, because there was just no speed. He allowed Winner's Edge, Mickey D, to just sit outside him a little bit and just control it a bit, whereas I would have liked Craig to be that person what Winner's Edge was, and then Winner's Edge sort of laid in with the left-hand whip of MD. So
there's no position I dislike more than basically sitting second, half to three-quarters off a leader. It's like, do one or the other.
Especially back on the inside as well. It just seems to stink.
Do they ever win? Well, we need stats on this.
They don't, especially. She's the example I have and the only example I'm going with. Race 8, Miss Celine. This is the 2-year-old race. I've got no idea about these 2-year-olds, so maybe you can shed some light on this. $11 into $5, runs unplaced. Anything?
Nothing.
Yeah, good. Race 9, Regal Zeus, $5.50 into $2.80 hits. And I think my gut feel is this was the horse that had the one run. They knew it was probably going to be able to control the speed. They had the other one, Bossy Nick, behind it. They'd probably have to go back. I think that's why the market sort of wanted to be with this horse.
Matt, wasn't it? And uncontestedly, he had a picnic
100%.
out in front and was too good. So I think, you're right. The map was spot on there.
Race 10, it was mix at $370 into $3. It misses, but I think it might have got a miss or something because it got beaten a long way. And there was a country final, so that's one that you got all these sort of horses coming in together, Mel, but they did like the mix-it stuff. So, look, issue might need a bit of tender TLC.
Well, there was nothing post-race immediately. I haven't seen...
It looked too bad to be true.
It was gone at the 500, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You could see at the 500 it was not right.
So that's the hits and misses for the PointsBet market team. Setting fire to it, Hutch. So usually we talk about maybe it could be trainer maybe make the wrong call going to a race or a jockey just doesn't do the right thing at the right time. Here I think it was just purely on the punter. This race purely was on the punter, and I talked to race 9 at Caulfield. When Wednesday acceptances came out and you saw Bossy Nic, I think, drew gate 2, the punters knew immediately in their head, where is this horse going to get in the run? And it was a carbon, well, to be honest, I mapped this horse 3-back rail from that position. And that's why I didn't back this horse. But for the punters that did back this horse, this is the lesson here. You're hoping. And I think sometimes when you have a punt, you shouldn't be hoping that much. Yes, we live all in the hope world that the horse needs to run up to expectation and do some things and get some luck. But you knew going in, Bossy Nic doesn't have any early gate speed at all. Around Caulfield, very different to Flemington where it's been running really well, but it has had wins at Mornington and Caulfield. So that wasn't the death knell. The death knell was the gate, and that was the time you needed to make the decision. As good as this horse has been going, your decision needed to be, I don't think I'm going to get the luck here. It's just not worth it at that price point. Now, if this horse is $11, fair enough, you play in that space. Yeah. But when this horse is around $3, that kind of price point, you need a lot of factors going your way. And I just didn't think, and we're watching the race now, that just got into a really awkward spot behind leader. Yes, it gets out of the death and probably should have won, but it was one of those ones that if it did win, you got really lucky because gate 2 immediately around Caulfield for a horse that doesn't have early gate speed.
And is there a general sort of price? Like, are you saying, you've got to be getting $5 plus or about a horse that you would normally...
Correct. I think you could see I could easily price that horse $3, but I need to be getting $5 or $5.50 because I just know how this race is going to be run 9 out of 10 times. Yeah. It just doesn't have the ability to be able to sit outside lead or to be able to lead. Now, once you cannot do that around Caulfield on a dry deck, you are hoping leader falls off or leader rolls out or something else happens that you get the split. And when you're banking on knowing exactly how the map's going to be and I need the split, then you need some juice in your price.
From that perspective, then, you'll know that the money will come from something like a Regal Zeus, which is exactly what happened. And then you think, well, I might get out to my price as well. So.
And correct, you are a chance to get out. And if it gets out to that $5.50 and $6, well, then you can possibly have something on because you go, well, now it's at a reasonable price that I can play into that space. But when you're at that $3.50 and you know in your head what's going to happen, you can't have hope.
Punters get the whack. But you know what I'm going to give a whack to? I'm setting fire to something here.
Well, not in here. This is a good studio.
Everywhere.
Roland.
Jockeys in staying races. These races, anything over 2,000 metres at the moment, some of the pace and tempo of these races is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, they are crawling.
And I
find them very hard to bet in as a consequence because you just think, well, it's not really a staying test. They're going to dash home. I think even the winner of the first the other day, Bankers, it was right out the gate and it ended up getting the best run of all time.
Yeah. It's a good point you raised because the turnover is down on these kinds of races and, there's a lot of factors in that small field and all that kind of stuff and probably can't trust the form. But I think what you raise as well is another good point to that. And the riding probably isn't as competitive as what we usually get in these other kinds of races. It's a big prize money day.
On a personal level, I find them hard to bet in anyway when you get over distance. And I think it's because you have a few of those different elements. how's this race going to be run? Where does the race begin? Yes. Are we going to get a move here? Are they going to crawl, sprint, whatever's going to happen? But, hopefully we can get a few more genuine tests because it just makes it a bit easier.
I really like that you have now set fire to one as well, so that you're now just coming with me.
I've joined the crew. Yeah, I love
the bonfire.
A little pyro.
Let's get to In the Fox's Den. So the horses that you think you want to follow out of this meeting or anywhere else, Hutch, you've got 3 for us that you've identified. You haven't got them on the sheet, so I'm hoping you can remember them. But
Roll on High was one of them.
Yes.
Roll on High I thought was a great run for a horse that sort of gets back and had that little bit of class, but I'm not sure what happened last preparation. It was a bit mixed, but Roland High is a horse that I think you could definitely follow going forward. I think that is one horse.
Regal Vow was the other one I reckon you put in.
Yeah, Regal Vow's another horse that, so look, I just didn't think it worked out there on the weekend in terms of the way. I want to see a bit more aggression next up. I won the Lord Stakes last preparation and is definitely one to follow going forward. Did I have the winner? Did I have Tatsumaki in there as well? Or not? Can I talk about him again?
So much on
No, but in all seriousness, I mean, I think if they can pick out I'm not sure what they'll do with that horse going forward in terms of their next assignment, but I think now they can aim up a little bit if they want to. 60 kilos, very fast speed and sort of where its rating lies.
And this is the key. The rating's not that high. Yeah. So you can work your way through. Yeah. Now, what we've seen with this camp be able to do it, they did it with Rise at Dawn and they've done it with the greatest of all, time all with Mr. Brightside. They worked out that you can win 7 or 8 races before you even get to a listed race.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They could do that with this horse as well. The other one was in a 2-year-old race.
Look, Sherguy was a great run, and the reason why it was a much better run, I think there were a couple of factors. Firstly, they've been SP'd very firm in the past, but the reason why they were a good run here was just different tactics and back around a bend. And I think sometimes giving a horse a little bit of a chance through those early stages can make a massive difference. Yeah. And there was an option to be that little bit closer there on the weekend, but they decided just to take their medicine a little bit, dragged back probably that length or two off where he should have been. He could have won this race, but it was a massive turnaround. I love it when I see a horse go from, travelling like a winner down the straight and emptying like there was absolutely nothing there to a horse really strong through the line with different tactics. So they learned something down the weekend, and he's not a bad little horse, sure, guys. So
very good. We got there eventually. For me, Fox's Den, Miss Aria. Get her to 1,400 metres. We'll be with her, Miss Aria. I know people will drop off her because she wasn't good for the market expectation, but get her to 1,400. Hurricane Georgie is an interesting one for me. It's going to be third up next start. Now, it was on speed and maybe it was favoured, but I thought it held on really well compared to the rest of the ones on speed. Get it into a weaker race. Hurricane Georgie we can be with. And then off Broadway, Dirty Grin. It continues to win this horse. I think I want to be with it again. New camp. It's going really well. And Michaela. He won a race, a maiden, I think, at Sandown, and it was very, very impressive. So I've got it rating really well. So they're the 4 for me. And Hutch, we are done.
No, we're not done yet. I want to bring something up.
I'm already worried about this.
No, we're not done. We are not done. I want to talk about your little foray into the AFL just quietly. And hey, you've been finding some winners.
Well, look. We got a bit lucky on the Friday night game. Yeah. Essendon v Hawthorn. 168.5 was the line. Didn't move at all. Didn't budge. They've scored 196. We hit the over, Hutch. So,
that's not just a little.
No, they've obliterated it.
Yeah,
you could have continued to play into the space and play in the space and keep eating. But yes, we got lucky. I like bringing some stuff that you can get from racing, like the sort of different edges and numbers, and bring it into AFL. It's a bit of fun.
Well, and the good thing is there's so many different markets as well that you can have a play at. Yes. You don't need to say this team or that team's going to win. I mean, really, it doesn't really matter to you, does it? Well,
no, it doesn't. And to be honest, I've gone away from, originally when I started the AFL, so 2 or 3 years ago, I was always picking teams, but I just can't trust humans. So when you've got 18 to 22 humans
they can't trust you either.
Correct, you can't. So I'm like, I can't trust them. But what I can trust is the collective either doing a job by kicking lots or kicking not much compared to what I think the market's going to do.
Well, Jules, I've got one thing to say.
Go on.
Keep kicking goals.
We're out. See ya.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.